And we're back with Jason's Ukulele Book. We are continuing now on page 17 on the section of strums. This page 17, is we're talking about variations and techniques. So the basic strum we talked about on some of the previous videos, about wrist rotation, finger extension, smooth wrist rotation. If you're going to do an up strum, I recommend using just one finger on the up strum. Not trying to be too aggressive. I don't recommend using your thumbnail, because that turns into kind of like ukulele in your face, which is a very confrontational feel for ukulele, which is really much more relaxed, generally speaking. So we covered strum 4 and 5 in the previous video, and this is going to be strum 6 and 7. So we're moving on to a percussive strum. So this strum and both of these strums actually are based on strum 3, which we have previously described as down, ka-chinga, down, ka-chinga, down, ka-chinga, down, ka-chinga. The principle is my wrist is still going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Whatever I do, this is going to be the smooth wrist rotation that keeps everything sounding nice and smooth. So, strum 6. We could do it like this now. We've got, so that's a new kind of a feel. We've got a percussive stroke in there. So how in the world do you do that? Well, we're going to snap our fingers on the strings just like we were doing a regular strum. It's got the same wind up, like hitchhiking. It's got the same follow through, like you just flicked water off your hands. The only difference is that in the middle of it, we're going to put the heel of our hand down kind of right on top of the strings, right about where the sound hole is. So instead of getting this sound, we get this sound. Now, what we're not looking for, by the way, is strum stop, strum stop, strum stop. And we're also not just looking for stop. So those are some of the mistakes people make in this technique, where they're not really maximizing the potential. So what we're looking for, again, is something that sounds like this. And we're not looking for this. See how that sounds like awkward and it's not smooth anymore? So your wrist has to rotate at the same rate. Could call this ka-chinga chop, ka-chinga chop, ka-chinga chop, ka-chinga chop. This would be useful for in the jungle, the mighty jungle. For example, a weema wop pattern, a weema wop, etc. So what we're looking for there is smooth, smooth, smooth. If it's not smooth, there's not really any point in doing it. We might as well at that point do a different strum that we could do smoothly. But this is one of the variation techniques. We talked about a thumb pluck in strum 5. We talked about skipping strums in strum 4, down, down, up, up, down, where sometimes you strum and sometimes you don't. So we've got 3 variations now. We've got skipping strums, we've got pluck strums, we've got percussive strums, and then we've got this last one is a double up strum. Looks like that. So strum 7, if we do all of strum 7, it'll sound like this. See that little occasional little da-da-da, 2, 3, 4, and a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 1. Or we could call it bada-boom, ka-ching, boom, ka-ching, bada-boom. There's lots of ways you can symbolize that. Giddy up really is about the best way, I think, because most people are have seen a Western at some point in their life, so they get the giddy up, you know, like the that's that giddy up rhythm. Or we could have done the Lone Ranger, the William Tell Overture. It's the same basic rhythm, and so are all Westerns, because that's what a galloping horse sounds like. Now, we can use this in ukulele in really useful ways. If you do it all the time, you get a Western. But if you don't want a Western, you just want an occasional little giddy up, to sort of get the tempo a little snappier, this is a really useful technique, especially if you do it during a chord change. So for example, I could go, so when I do all those chord changes, I put in that little flutter strum. Flutter down, 2, 3, 4, flutter down, 2, 3, 4, flutter down, 2, 3, 4, flutter down, or giddy up or flutter down or whatever you want to call it. It makes it a lot more interesting in a subtle way. Lots of times, all of these strums can be played together if you want to enhance what somebody's doing. So if you're playing with somebody and somebody's going strum 3 like this, and you want to just make it a little more interesting, just flow in, put in one of those little flutters. Or maybe you want to put in a chop. While they're doing strum 3, you could do strum 6. Or while they're doing strum 3, you could do strum 5. Or while they're doing strum 3, you could do strum 4. Those are all just variations that just rotated through. So long as, whatever the tempo is, you stay with the tempo. You can't just run the train off the tracks and make up your own tempo. You've got to stay with the tempo of the song. But once you've got these 4 variation techniques, then we get some interesting stuff, because you can start thinking in terms of, well, can I do 2 of these at the same time or 3 of these at the same time? Yeah, of course you can. That's what page 18 and 19 are all about, combining these. Once you learn these basic techniques, you could combine them and make all sorts of different techniques. And that could be really, really cool. However, you also want to keep in mind that if you make something too complex, sometimes all you're doing is making it too complex. Imagine a good example is making an omelet. Let's say that you're making an omelet and it's got, what do you get, butter and eggs in a pan, a little bit of salt. A little bit of salt, only a little bit. You can't go too wrong with that, right? Maybe you want to add a little pepper. Okay. Maybe you want to add a little cheese. Maybe you want to add, I don't know, a little bacon. It's getting more complex now, right? So far, omelet's still tasty. But if you open up the whole spice cabinet and you just pour everything into the omelet and then you try to serve it to somebody, they're probably not going to be delighted, because all those spices don't necessarily combine together. There is something beautiful about simplicity. So don't overlook the power of simplicity. Don't overlook a smooth strum just to try to put in all these tricks, if you want to look at them that way, more fancy techniques. But these can, if you use them properly and if you do it smoothly, these can really, really enhance what you're doing in a really effective way. So what if we started combining some of these together? Well, then we'd end up on page 18, for example. Page 18 has some strum diagrams there for you. If you don't have this book, by the way, I encourage you to pick it up. It's like this. You can download it from our website, lahainamusic.com or lahainamusicmaui.com. And these diagrams, I think, will help you out a lot. It'll give you some visual representations of what's going on. But if we wanted to combine strum 4 and strum 5, for example, we get some cool possibilities. We get something that could sound like a calypso. It could sound like this. I do there? Well, strum 4 would have been down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, down, up, down, like that. And if I put a pluck on the first beat, so if I'm counting beats, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first beat gets a pluck. Now on the second beat, if I put a really elaborate fan, I get a cool effect. So it's pluck, fan, up, down, pluck, fan. For the fan, think of like the Liberace of downstrums, like just the most grandiose down strum you can possibly do. So I've got pluck. So then some songs lend itself to this kind of a rhythm. So you probably recognize that one. Now, could I do it like this too? Sure. But it sounds a little heavy-handed because Boardwalk doesn't, or there are lots of ways I could play under the Boardwalk that wouldn't sound especially nice. So this is a really nice way to make a song come alive. So because it's the simplest chords in the world, it's C, A minor, F, G7, you know, simple stuff. But if you've got a good strum, it's going to sound way, way, way better than just slamming it out by going, when the sun beats down, that's a car up upon the roof. That's not, I mean, you got to start somewhere, right? But this book is about making you better so that you're not just stuck where you started, but you can actually make things way better, even with simple chords. So if you learn these strums, it's like a chord multiplier. You might only know 4 chords, but it's going to sound like you know 400 because your strums are great. Let's move on to strum 9. This is an example of combining strum 4 and strum 6 now. So we're going to use our basic folk rock strum, down, down, up, up, down, as a template. And now the second and the fourth beat, we're going to put in that chop. So down, chop, up, chop, down, chop, up, chop, down, chop, up, chop. Some people call it a chuck or a palm mute. Either way, I call it a chop. Down, chop, up. So this would be good for a song like that one. Hey, where did we go? The days when the rain came down in the hollow, playing a new game. So that technique, it makes a song come alive, being able to do that. Here's a good example, because there are a couple songs that are, if you take The Lion Sleeps Tonight and Brown Eyed Girl, they really have the same chord progression for a lot of the song. Under the Boardwalk sounds like, sorry, The Lion Sleeps Tonight sounds like, I got Brown Eyed Girl stuck in my head. Right? And Brown Eyed Girl sounds like, but if you just break down the chord progression, they're both doing the same exact thing, which is not uncommon. A lot of music ends up doing the same thing because there are only so many ways to assemble music together. It's like Legos. They only fit together in so many different ways. You can build just about anything, but there's just ways that it fits together. So if we took out all the complex strums, we could play those songs back to back and they would sound suspiciously similar. For example, just looking at the chord progression of those two songs, we could do a wee mo up, 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 a wee mo up. Sha la 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 la. Brown-eyed girl, go up, a wee mo up, a wee mo up. Say we just made those songs the same by playing the same strum. So you don't want all songs to sound the same, and that's why it's nice to have some different strums at your disposal. So if you can pick up on some of these other strums, that's where you get some really, really cool possibilities. I think we'll pause this video now, and we'll put the other ones. We're on page 18. We'll cut it for now, and stay tuned for more. Mahalo.